Hello everyone, and welcome to the BayWa RE webinar with SolarEdge. I still see a few people logging in, so I'll just give a couple more minutes and we will get started shortly. Thanks for joining us. Hello again, everyone. This is Jeremy Baumang here, and I'm an outside sales rep with BayWa RE Canada. Continuing education is important to BayWa, so we really appreciate you attending and taking time out of your busy day and schedules to join us and SolarEdge. Just a reminder, this will be recorded. You'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel, and this webinar will also be released during our next monthly newsletter. Please sign up for our YouTube channel if you've not already. You can find all of our past webinars there. If you have any questions during the webinar, please be sure to type them in the chat box in the bottom right corner of the GoToMeeting app or on your browser. We'll answer questions as we go, and we'll do a question and answer period at the end also. And I'd just like to make sure that the chat box is working. For any of our listeners out there, if you can just post something in there quickly right now, that'd be fantastic. I'm not seeing anything yet. Will, do you want to toss a question in the chat box? Okay, looks like this is working. We are going to carry on. And again, continuing education, super important part of the culture here at BayWa, and so we're happy to be able to extend this to our customers. As you all know, this webinar is with SolarEdge. They're a great partner of BayWa. They have awesome products from residential application to commercial to industrial. Many of you know probably of their hybrid inverter that's offering battery backup, their EV chargers, many different offerings from SolarEdge. We're super happy to have them here. And with us, we have Dan Hoyle, Regional Sales Manager. And speaking for SolarEdge is going to be Ash Trosh. He's the National Sales Trainer. So Ash, I'd just like to pass this on to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you for the warm welcome. I want to take a moment to thank BayWa for having us and giving me the opportunity to speak with you all today. And just want to make sure before I get started, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see, sir.
Okay, awesome. Then we will go ahead and get rolling. So today what I wanted to speak with you all about is just the SolarEdge Advantage. What is the advantage of using our products, and where do we compare competitively? So what we're going to go over today, today's objectives and what I'd like for you to walk away with. We're going to talk first of all about our technology advantage. So that's going to be our overall architecture and our whole ecosystem of products that we offer. After that, we'll talk through the advantages of being a DC coupled advantage. And we're going to save some space at the end for any questions that you may have and respond to as many as we can. As well as we'll stop along the way if there are any questions along the way and hopefully respond to some of those as well. So we can't talk about the advantages of SolarEdge without first kind of reviewing different architectures and going over the different inverter types that are available in the solar industry. I want to find out, and I'm hoping that you guys will be able to help me with the chat box here. How many of you have been in the industry 10 years or more? If it's not 10 years or more, throw in the chat box how many years you've been in the industry. If you guys can help me out, William or Jeremy, I just want to find out what's the biggest number we're seeing.
I think we've got some 5 years. I think there is some 10-year people in there as well.
Awesome. We got some 10 years. Dan is letting us know that he's been with us 14 years. Wow. I think Dan goes past me. I started in the industry way back in 2013. So I've got about 10 years of sales experience in the solar industry, about 5 of that spent in sales training. The reason I bring that up is the first inverter architecture we're going to go over today is the string inverter. Those of us that have been in the industry 10 years, this is primarily what we sold. This is where solar started. And even today, there are some advantages to the string inverter. The main pro being that since it is the oldest technology, it's where solar started, it's still really inexpensive. However, that carries a pretty heavy downside as well. The biggest con is that you're always performing to your worst performing module on a string. So if you have any sort of shading or obstructions or anything like that, it's kind of like those old Christmas lights when one bulb is out. When one bulb goes out, it affects an entire string. That is the main weakness of a string inverter. As we move through time and continue to progress in the industry, the next place we landed was microinverters. That was kind of the next big thing that we heard about in the industry. And microinverters also have some big strengths because they eliminate that con. A microinverter has a tiny inverter on the bottom of every single solar panel. That helps the panels to work independently of one another and helps eliminate that weakness where you're always, having shading issues and performing to your lowest performing module. That doesn't happen with microinverters. But there are some sneaky cons that a lot of sales professionals and a lot of customers don't know about. The biggest con with a microinverter is that you're limited on a panel level as to what is being produced for energy. Since it is converting energy at the panel level, you're limited to the actual continuous power of that microinverter. So in a lot of cases, especially when we're looking at those higher wattage modules, like the over 400 watt modules, this typically results in getting some clipping coming from the microinverters. So you've got lost energy when you're using high wattage modules, as well as the larger size microinverter you use, usually the less panels you can put on a string. So where does our solution fit in? Where does the SolarEdge solution? Well, as this conversation is guided in a certain way, you can probably figure out, we geared our technology to be the best of both worlds. We wanted to get the best of both technologies and try and eliminate the limitations that come from each of these two technologies. So we've got our inverter, which is one central source of power. Since it's a big inverter, it's allowing us to convert more energy since it's not occurring on a panel level on the rooftop. That allows us to harvest a higher energy production for the system. But we also have optimizers up on the roof. And what that's doing is that's letting each and every solar panel to work independently. So we're not having those problems where an entire string or an entire group of panels is going out due to shading. Each of those modules, just like in a microinverter scenario, is working independently. It's also, because there's an optimizer on each panel, it lets us track production on a per module basis as well. And there's a couple more benefits to these optimizers that we're going to cover as we go through these slides here. But I just wanted to explain this out because we talked about how with microinverters, a lot of times we're getting clipped energy at the inverter level. Think about it like this. If we had multiple faucets running, if you put a single cup under each faucet, that cup is probably going to flow over pretty quickly. But when you think about our inverter, what we use is a large bucket. So if you put that really large bucket underneath all of those faucets, typically it's going to take a lot longer to run that bucket over than it would an individual cup under each individual faucet. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is since we have a centralized inverter that's larger, we're able to harvest more energy than with microinverters that a lot of times at a panel level with higher wattage modules, we're getting that clipping. So that more efficiency means more power from their system that homeowners are going to be able to take advantage of. On average, 3 to 5 days of power annually. So a couple things that we run into a lot when we're working with sales reps is we hear some interesting things that sales reps have been told regarding our product. For instance, a lot of what we run into is people saying, hey, well, you're a string inverter solution. So you're like Christmas lights. When one panels go down, all panels go down. The truth of the matter is that we are not a string inverter solution. We are an optimized solution. So we have those optimizers up on the roof that are helping each and every single one of those solar panels to operate independently. And not only is it making it to where if one panel goes down, the system still operates efficiently, but also those power optimizers can actually boost production on the other modules to help to make up for a module that's being shaded or obstructed. Again, what this means is since we have that efficiency bonus, we're not clipping energy. On average, it leads to 3 to 5 days of free power every single year for that homeowner, just from using our optimized solution. Another thing that we run into a lot when we're talking about ourselves versus microinverters, a lot of times people say, hey, well, we've got that centralized inverter. That's a single point of failure. If that fails, our entire system stops working. Well, that is true. If the inverter, the brain of the system, does stop working, the system will stop working. What a lot of people don't know, though, is all solar technologies have some sort of single point of failure. With microinverters, all of those inverters have to come together at a certain point at a combiner box. And that combiner box then becomes a single point of failure. Another thing to talk about is that whereas an individual microinverter, if one goes down, the whole system's not going to go down. Each of the microinverters is a complex piece of technology, and they're up on the highest stress point of the entire installation, up on the roof. So each one of those that does fail is going to affect your actual efficiency of your system, and it's actually really difficult to repair those since they are up on the roof. When we're going back to the combiner boxes too, usually the combiner boxes only carry a 5-year warranty. So there can be a lot of downsides as well to looking at microinverter technology. So why would we go with SolarEdge? Number one, our inverters have up to a 25-year warranty. So when you're taking a look at our inverter, you know it's going to be there for the long haul. We have a single point of service and it's not up on the roof. So if that inverter does fail as a single point of failure, it's easy to get that replaced and less expensive with labor and no risk of roof damage to get that swapped out. Whereas with what we mentioned with microinverters, if one of those goes out, it can be a very difficult service call to actually get up there and replace the microinverter. We also have record-breaking efficiency. We provide more energy savings and return on investment for our homeowners. And again, that's because they're just getting more energy out of their system on average. So just to break it down, SolarEdge, they get the maximum power per system because of our DC optimization. We're able to optimize and even cover for modules that might get shaded. We're avoiding that module level power clipping because we're keeping it all in a centralized inverter. What this means to the average homeowner is about 3 to 5 days of additional power because of that extra production. With microinverters, hey, they still make the modules perform at a module level, so they're not having the same problem as a string inverter. However, they are typically clipping power And there's no DC power optimization, so bit less power. When we're looking at string inverters, well, again, it's the Christmas light scenario. They're limited to their lowest producing module on the string. So if you're in a situation where you have a homeowner that has no risk of shading or obstructions, string inverters can still be a solution. But if there's any shading at all, there's a high likelihood that the production of that system is going to drop greatly. So I wanted to talk through the entire SolarEdge home ecosystem and our offerings and give you a little bit of information about each of those. But before that, I want to pause briefly to see if there are any questions at this point.
It looks like we've got one question. It might be pertinent to Site Designer, but I'll throw it out there anyway.
Sure.
Someone asked, what do you recommend to properly calculate the yield of your system? We're using Helioscope and Aurora, and we're seeing about 4% drop efficiency between micros and unoptimized string inverters. Which program do you recommend? And I'm assuming you're probably going to say Site Designer as well, too. Hey, Ash?
So yeah, I might be a little opinionated on the matter, but SolarEdge offers a free tool where you can actually take a look at your site design and calculate those numbers. If you don't already have access to that tool, I'm going to be sharing with you a QR code at the end of this call. So if you fill out the information there, we can get you access to Designer. You don't have to use that exclusively and only use Designer. You can use that as an addition to the tools that you're already using, but that would indeed be my recommendation.
Perfect. Thanks, Ash. That's it for questions for now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about the SolarEdge home ecosystem. So when we talk about SolarEdge, a lot of people, they think, hey, you're an inverter and a optimizer company. But we've come a long way since there. We have a whole residential offering that can build an entire ecosystem for our homeowners. Anecdotal question here. How many of you have purchased an Apple product at any time in the past? Imagine I have at least a few yeses from that. What I want to see after that, if you've purchased an Apple product, has it led you to buy another Apple product? Typically, the answer that I get to that is yes. The reason a lot of people are doing that with their cell phone technology is they want to make sure that everything that they have is integrated together and is going to work well together. So having an integrated ecosystem when it comes to your smart home is an incredibly powerful benefit. I know that in my home, I have several devices by several manufacturers that have probably 27 applications on my phone. And at this point, I forget what does what on my phone. So having that integrated ecosystem for me would be an incredible benefit. That's what we want to create for your homeowners. It starts on the roof with those power optimizers. Hey, we already talked about those. Those are helping your system to produce maximum power at every single solar panel and help those panels operate independently. Next, we bring it to the SolarEdge Home Hub Inverter. We're going to show you some stats on that on the next slide. What you should know about this inverter that's super important is, number one, it gives you the ability to stack up to 3 of our home battery per inverter. It's an incredibly flexible inverter that allows you to install every single smart device that we have, either at the point of sale, or you can maintain that relationship with the homeowner, and it's easy to add those smart devices on as you maintain that relationship at year 1, year 2, into the future. Moving to the SolarEdge home battery, we can stack up to 3 of that home battery per inverter, up to 3 inverters per home. So for maximum power, our homeowners can have up to 9 of our SolarEdge home battery per home. And we're going to give you the exact stats on our battery on a later slide, so don't want to talk about it too much here. Bringing over to our SolarEdge home backup interface. When our homeowners are looking for backup power, our backup interface is a great benefit. You can back up to 9 of our batteries on one single backup interface. We've got our SolarEdge Home EV charger. It is a level 2 240 volt charger that allows you to charge any EV currently available on the market. And also, It has the ability to switch into solar boost mode. So if your homeowner wants the reassurance that they can charge their car just on the excess solar power that they're generating, they have the ability to do that. We have other smart energy devices that we manage to control the way that your renewable energy flows through your home, such as the SolarEdge Home Hot Water Controller and the SolarEdge Home switches and sockets. What these are doing is managing loads in the home. So in the event of a blackout, you have the ability to automatically switch off the larger loads. That way you can rest assured that your battery is not going to drain completely within that first hour of a power outage. Everything comes together on the SolarEdge app. The SolarEdge app is an amazing application. It's easy to use, has a great visual interface, and the homeowner is able to monitor every single device in their home and manage them on one single app. Do you want to choose what time of day your EV is charging? The app does that. Do you want to see what your panels are producing per panel level? The app does that. We're going to talk about later why I think that you should download that app and have it available when you're in your consultations with your homeowners. So we're talking about the SolarEdge Home Hub Inverter. Again, this is a fully flexible inverter. You can integrate our EV charging solution, our battery solution, either now or in the future easily, because each of our smart devices wires directly into the inverter itself. It serves as a whole home energy manager. It has a record-breaking efficiency of 99%. A built-in consumption manager. It manages every single smart device that we offer, and it has a seamless connection with the SolarEdge Home Network. Just to show you the different sizes that we offer, we've got the 3.8, the 6 kilowatt, the 7.6 kilowatt, the 10 kilowatt, and the 11.4 kilowatt. So we have a lot of sizes available to meet the needs of your homeowners. All right, here's the SolarEdge Home Battery, and a lot of awesome things to talk about here, especially if we're just getting into batteries in our market. It is a 9.7 kilowatt hour battery with a 5 kilowatt continuous power. You can discharge all 9.7 kilowatt hours. Now you might be asking yourself, hey, 9.7, that's a pretty odd number. Well, it is a 10 kilowatt hour battery. The reason we're telling you 9.7, it holds 0.3 kilowatt hours in the battery just for the health of that lithium ion battery, to make sure that this battery is going to continue to operate successfully into the future. It has a highly efficient energy storage due to being a DC coupled battery. It has a 94.5 round trip efficiency. And that again is because we keep it on the DC side of the line. We'll talk through a little bit about the DC coupled advantages as we move into the next section. We have an industry leading 10-year warranty. What really stands out about our warranty is not only are we saying that our battery is still going to have 70% of its capacity past that 10 years, but also during that 10 years, we are guaranteeing that our homeowner can cycle that battery as many times as they want. Why is that important? In some markets, our homeowners are cycling their battery as much as 2 or more times a day. So giving them unlimited cycles is giving that homeowner the reassurance that they can use their battery how they want to use their battery and still be within their warranty. A lot of our competition is limiting the number of times you can cycle your battery and still be under warranty. We can stack multiple batteries per inverter for increased system capacity. So up to 3 of our SolarEdge Home Battery per Home Hub inverter, up to 9 batteries total per home. Our installation is incredibly flexible. We can install it either indoor or outdoor. On the floor, we also have a great wall mounting solution. So the floor solution can be awesome for homeowners that have limited space. Because of the safety certification of our battery, we're actually able to install our battery closer together than a lot of the competition. We'll show you what one of those installs looks like on the next slide. But again, this is an incredibly safe battery because almost every single one of us that has talked about a solar battery has heard from a homeowner at some point, hey, I'm afraid that this battery is going to set on fire. The good news is that we have the highest available safety certification for our battery, which is UL 9540A. And what that means is that it is a very low risk of any sort of thermal event happening. That's because we have a built-in array of multi-point temperature sensors. They're constantly monitoring the temperature of that battery. If anything seems off, it's going to mitigate the risk of the overheat by shutting down the battery. Same thing when we're talking about voltage. We have continuous monitoring of the battery current and voltage levels. Again, if anything looks off, it looks like we're going to get an overcurrent, the battery will shut itself off to prevent that sort of event. So a homeowner can rest assured that if they have this in their garage, it's every bit as safe as every other device that they have installed in their garage. In some cases, more safe. So here's an example of what the different installation setups look like for our home battery. Again, what we see most in the field is the home battery being installed on the wall. But in the case that the homeowner's limited on space, sometimes the floor mounting solution is a great solution because, again, we have these racks where we can install the batteries very close together and take up minimal space inside of the home. So here's the overall advantage and how we stack up, taking a look at the average battery that's paired with microinverters. We have access to 30% more power to help back up both more and bigger devices. That's because we have a 5 kilowatt continuous power versus a 3.8 continuous. We have about 6% more stored power because we have that leading efficiency, the round trip of 93.1 versus 86.8. Our warranty period has no conditions attached to it, so a homeowner has the ability to use their battery the way they want to use their battery during the warranty term. Whereas we're looking at 10 years, sometimes more across the way at the competition, but they always limit the power cycles, so you can't use your battery the way that you want to use your battery and still stay within your warranty period. We can stack up to 3 of our battery per inverter. You can stack up to 9 per home. And the good news is that that can scale with the energy needs of your homeowner because you can add that capacity either now or later, and you can avoid main panel upgrades, which we're going to talk about as we move into talking about the DC coupled advantage. But again, those batteries are wiring directly into the inverter. So on one single breaker, you can have 3 batteries. So that can be one of the things that help you avoid main panel upgrades. Whereas stackability, looking at microinverter solutions, it's dependent on how much space you've got in the main panel, how many batteries you're able to stack. Also, we're going to make use of that clipped power. With a battery, since we're sitting on the DC side of the line, we can actually take power that would be clipped by the inverter and send it back to the battery and use it to charge the battery, since we have extra flexibility on how we use that energy. And again, when we get into the DC coupled advantage, we're going to talk pretty heavily on that. So if it doesn't make sense right now, we're going to cover more on it later. Whereas the microinverters, it's an AC coupled battery, so there's no ability to store clipped power. It'll be clipped off before it can be stored. And if a homeowner needs backup, hey, we've got them covered there too. Our backup interface has automatic backup power in the event of a grid interruption. Something that's not listed on the slide here, but I want to mention for this group, is that our backup interface and inverter is one of the only inverters on the market that has the ability to dark start. So even if the grid is offline for a few days, every morning when the sun comes up, we've got a little 9-volt battery in the inverter that's going to jumpstart the inverter. Once we start getting sunlight, we can begin charging that battery again and dark starting the system. So does have the ability to dark start. It has multi-inverter support. As I mentioned earlier, we can go up to 3 inverters, up to 9 batteries per backup interface. It controls the disconnection of house loads from the grid. It has an automatic transfer switch up to 200 amps, and it's rated for service side connection. And it's a 1-box solution with an auto transformer and energy meter for easier installation. So again, in the event that your homeowner needs backup, that's what they're seeking with their battery solution, we've got you covered with this awesome product. Going into our SolarEdge EV charger, not sure if you guys have looked at the market, but I know anecdotally EV chargers and EV cars are becoming much more popular across the nation. So we want to be able to offer that product to our homeowners, and the SolarEdge offering is fantastic. It charges up to 9.6 kilowatts or 40 amp. It's about 7 times faster than plugging into a standard wall outlet. Don't know if any of you out there are EV drivers already, but plugging into a standard wall outlet takes forever. Not the way that you want to go with an electric vehicle. We have a 5-year warranty, which is industry best. The industry standard on EV chargers is about 2 to 4 years. Our EV charger is rated for indoor or outdoor use. Have a couple of coworkers that have one that's installed in the garage. And at the SolarEdge offices here in California, we actually have a few installed in the parking lot. So they work great both indoor and outdoor. So it's available in both a plug-in or a hardwired version. So you can hardwire it directly into the inverter or main service panel, or you can actually plug it into a 240 volt outlet as well. Has a 25-foot length cable so that no matter where your vehicle is, we're going to be able to reach you. It is remotely managed with all of its functions through the My SolarEdge app. As we mentioned earlier, if the homeowner is looking for that reassurance that they just want to charge their electric vehicle on excess PV from the system, we've got the solar boost mode that lets the homeowner do that. So they can charge their car just on their excess solar power using solar boost mode. And this can be installed in addition with a PV system, but if the homeowner's only looking for an EV charger, that's something that can be done as well. So here's the different compatibility options. The easiest compatibility, option number 1, is the Home Hub inverter. It wires directly into the Home Hub inverter. It's managed alongside the solar system, and the boost mode is available to just charge on the excess PV energy. So again, that's the easiest, nothing additional that needs to be added. We've got the HD Wave, which is our older inverter. It is compatible with the HD Wave as well. But you do have to get a solar boost kit in order to install it with the HD Wave inverter. There's a small adapter installed to enable the integration with solar. So it will work with the solar system after you install the solar boost kit. Then there's also the standalone EV charger. And this is where either you're going to plug it into the 240 volt outlet, or you're going to wire it directly into your main service panel. It's not integrated into the solar system because if you were to put it together this way, again, it's not connected to the solar system. But you can still track and manage it on the My SolarEdge app since it is a My SolarEdge question. And it looks like Dan is actually just giving me some information. It looks like our EV charger was just approved for the $600 rebate for homeowners in Quebec. If there's any installers from that region, that is a fantastic benefit. So thank you so much for sharing that with me, Dan.
Ash, I just have another question for you too, and maybe you get this once in a while.
Sure.
Someone is asking, can the hybrid inverters with the batteries be installed / set up as an off-grid system? What's your take on that?
So off-grid meaning just not connected to the electricity grid at all?
Correct.
Got it. So Dan, do you have any information on that? I think that my answer to that would be that wouldn't be my recommendation. I think that technically it would operate, but Dan, do you have any info on that?
Yeah, the intended use for our inverters is for grid interconnected devices. They are grid following, so in order to operate, they need to see grid quality voltage and frequency. So it's not a pure off-grid application is not typically one you would see supported from SolarEdge.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the question.
That's it for now. We can carry on. Thanks, Ash.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, moving on. So we talked about the right ecosystem, having a integrated ecosystem that all works together. And again, we've got the My SolarEdge app that puts all of these devices that we offer together. It's going to help you optimize the way that you interact with your technology. It's going to help you control the habits of your battery so that you can charge during the optimal times and discharge during the best time to get maximum efficiency out of your system. And you can control everything, including your EV charger. Now, a great thing for those of us on the call that interact with homeowners is you can actually install this app and show that homeowner every single function of the app at the time that you're talking to them in the home. When you install that app, you can get that through the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Once you install it, you don't need a login. From the login screen at the bottom, there's a demo sites button. When you press that, it's going to give you access to all of SolarEdge's test sites. And we have test sites all over the world that demo every single piece of smart technology that we offer. Based on that conversation with the homeowner, you know what they're interested in. You can pick one of those test sites and show them how they're going to interact with that smart technology. That way they can imagine having all of that you're offering them in their life. And just to let you know, these aren't just numbers that we're making up. Each of our test sites are actually sites that we've installed, usually for SolarEdge friends and family that have agreed to be test sites for us. A couple of great functions of the My SolarEdge app I want to call out is the Weather Guard function. What the Weather Guard function does, we're constantly monitoring weather data. In your region, if it looks like you're going to have a big storm that has the potential to knock out your power, Weather Guard's automatically going to prioritize everything to charge that battery to full before the storm hits. That way, you can have the reassurance that if your power does go out, you're going to have access to your full battery. We have flexible home backup because we can stack multiple batteries. Also, one of the abilities of our backup interface, you can actually connect a generator. I do want to let you know that currently the batteries and the generator don't work at the same time. They don't currently interface together, but it does give you another method of backup power if you needed additional backup power. Now, we are working on the software to make that more seamless. We're not quite there yet. And again, one of the big benefits of this app is the smart energy management aspect. You can manage your whole home ecosystem on one simple app with the My SolarEdge app. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the advantages of having a DC coupled system. But before we get there, I want to pause and see if there's any questions about everything that we just went over.
Got one here for you, Ash. You mentioned that these can be installed indoors and outdoors. Typically, most of the installs I'm hearing are happening in garages just due to the Canadian electrical code. Are there any other location requirements for the battery?
So location requirements for battery are nearly always going to be dependent on your local building code. Typically, what I see on my side is typically they need to be installed usually not in the living space. What we see here in the States is typically it's a basement install or garage install is typically what's required. Just go to Dan to see if there's anything typical that he knows for Canada as far as installations.
Thanks, Ash. Hey, Jeremy. Yeah, it's really dependent jurisdiction by jurisdiction. For example, Ontario's ESA put out a somewhat recent bulletin. I think it might be 64-8 that speaks to battery siting, where they can be installed in or around residential dwelling units. So refer to that if you're in Ontario. There's other provinces that are looking at potentially creating a similar set of guidelines, but I don't have an update on those other jurisdictions at this time.
Got it. So best recommendation would be work with your local building department and see what their requirements are. In a lot of cases, if you've got an extreme weather scenario, my recommendation would be install on the inside.
Excellent. Thank you, gents. That's it for questions for now.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move into the advantages of DC coupling. You've got a couple choices when it comes to coupling your system. In the solar world, we're going to say DC coupled is the way to go. That is because the power that we collect on the roof is DC power. The advantage is in efficiency. The longer we can keep that power on the DC side, the more flexibility that we have and what we do with that energy. When we're looking at our DC coupled solution, especially when we're putting in other smart devices, such as the SolarEdge home battery, the advantage here is since our battery sits on the DC side of the line, we're only converting that power from DC to AC one single time. The reason that that creates efficiency is because every time you convert power, you're actually losing a little bit of power at every single conversion. It's kind of like if you've got a favorite pair of jeans or favorite hoodie, every single time you put it in the wash, it's going to lose a little bit of color. When you're looking at an AC coupled solution, this particular scenario, we're looking at a microinverter with a battery. You're converting at least 3 times on the way to the home because it converts at the roof level from DC to AC. Once it hits the battery, AC power can't be stored, so it has to convert it back to DC to store the power. And then when it's coming out of the battery to move to the home, it has to convert again. So you're losing a little bit of power at each step. Whereas when you look at how much power is lost in the conversion, it may not look like much initially. What it looks like at the end of the year is about 10 days of free power just from using a DC coupled solution. Beyond efficiency, a big pain point for a lot of installers is having to upgrade that main surface panel. When I was selling deals, this was one of the #1 things that would put deals at risk or kill a deal for me. Because what does a main panel upgrade mean for a homeowner? It means a longer timeline on the install, and it means that the project is going to cost more money. That was something that we thought about with our DC optimized technology. That's why we made every smart device that we have integrate directly into our home hub inverter. That way we're taking up minimal space in the breaker, in the main service panel. So you can have up to 3 batteries, an EV charger, your backup interface, and your solar system. That's all wiring directly into your inverter. So if you're using, let's say, a 7.6 inverter, for instance, that means you'd have all of those smart devices on one 40 amp breaker. Taking a look at our competition, a lot of the systems are not working together. They're not wiring directly into an inverter or a central source. So if you've got an EV charger, if you've got a battery, they're all going to take up their own space in the main service panel. That could lead to requiring a main service panel upgrade. As well as one of the big strengths of our technology is the ability to oversize the inverter and actually utilize that energy. So you can oversize our SolarEdge Home Hub inverter with a SolarEdge Home battery by up to 200%. Why you normally wouldn't want to do that is because when you oversize an inverter by that much, typically you're going to end up with a bunch of clipped energy. But again, we've got our battery on the DC side of the line. So once the energy reaches the inverter, we've got a little more flexibility of what happens if we can't convert the energy at the inverter. Instead of clipping the energy, we send the energy back to the battery, and we use that energy that would be clipped to charge the battery. So we're able to utilize every bit of that energy. In an AC coupled scenario, no ability to utilize that clipped energy. So anything that's not converted at the inverter, unfortunately, is just lost. All right, so I wanted to make sure that we made some time for any questions that you may have, but I wanted to call out this QR code that I've got here today. This is for our SolarEdge Sales Elite program. This is a network of sales professionals and resources for them. What we offer here is we have interactive live training sessions twice a month. One is usually from the SolarEdge studios with a special guest. We've got kitchen table selling tools that you can use with your homeowners, sneak previews of new products, contests, raffles, and swag giveaways constantly. And the good news is that the price for all of this is free. As well as a couple additional resources, we've got all sorts of training and certifications that are available to you via our Edge Academy. I wanted to call out here, if you're just starting your journey into installing batteries, taking the battery certification in Edge Academy is critical. It's going to give you that leg up that you need to have that advantage going into that. Also, we've got our YouTube SolarEdge North America sales playlist, has a lot of handy videos for both installers and for sales professionals. and our SolarEdge Sales Elite Facebook group. We can post updates in this group, and also you can chat directly with this group if you're in the home with your homeowner and you've got a question. This can kind of be your red telephone to get help immediately. So with that, we'll go ahead and move into any questions that the audience may have.
Thanks, Ash. I think you're covering things very well. So I don't see any questions currently. So we can continue on with the presentation here if you have more for us, sir.
Got it. This was the end of the planned content today, but any questions that anyone has, I want to make sure that we take the time to find out what our group wants to learn about.
Absolutely. So let's hang on the line here for a couple more minutes. Folks, as Ash said, if there are any other questions that you guys would like answered, please throw them in the chat system. Of course, if anything comes up after the webinar, please feel free to reach out to one of your outside sales reps too. But let's just hang for a couple more minutes here, and we will be on our merry way. Anything else you want to share with us right now, Ash? Any cool new products coming out from SolarEdge that we should get excited about, or is that hush for now?
So no exact announcements to make right now. Dan, have you got any previews that you want to share with the crowd?
Yeah, I think some signals of what's to come. As of today, our Home Hub inverters are shipping with a prepaid integrated 5-year cell card for communications. There will be a day in the not too distant future where you will see an option for that cell card to be removed and the hub inverter shipped with Wi-Fi already integrated. So that is coming down the pipe, not quite there yet, but we're almost there, having it in the channels. The other product worthy of mention is our load control device. So as we enter in the world of folks trying to do more whole home backup and stack more batteries to provide that whole home backup, it will be integral to set customer expectations appropriately. And so being able to shed large power consuming devices will be also important for system design. So SolarEdge does have a load control device that we are starting to market. Again, it should be available in the not too distant future, but coming down the pipe as well. I would say those are the two kind of hot ones right now.
That's excellent. Thanks so much for sharing, Dan. And looks like we didn't have any other questions come up in the chat. Again, I just want to say to everybody out there listening and watching, this presentation has been recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel and in our next monthly newsletter. If you've not already signed up for the web shop, please do so. This is a fantastic resource. You can find spec sheets for all of the SolarEdge products, pricing, inventory levels, install manuals, and you can also view all of your orders there. As mentioned, if something comes to mind after the webinar that you're curious about, please feel free to reach out to your outside sales reps, and they'll be happy to help you guys out. And Dan, Ash, thanks so much for your time. This is a great presentation. We really do appreciate your product and all that it does. Looking forward to seeing the new offerings that you mentioned, Dan. And again, just thank you so much from BayWa here. Hope to see you guys at our next webinar. And as mentioned, reach out to your outside sales rep should any other questions come up. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy and BayWa, for having us, and have a fantastic day.